Oh,
Slow down, slow down.
well, this is not my first meeting of the day.
It won't be our last either.
No, I know. I want you to
Okay.
know I have on my favorite sweater.
Oh, look at that. You got holes in it. Yeah.
I know. I'm
We can,
really.
we can have a little GoFundMe page there. We'll get you a
Yeah.
sweater. Okay?
To go down to the Salvation Army and see if I
Yeah,
could.
I'll get you a
Okay.
couple.
We're live.
Okay. Well,
Just so you
thank
know
you
we're
for all
live.
coming back today. Must be we enjoyed yesterday, so we're all back today.
Senator Mazza,
Yes,
I have to leave about 11:45 just to
Sure.
let you know in
That's
advance because
that's fine. No problem.
Gil has got a doctor's appointment that I've got to.
Anytime someone has something that comes up, feel free to do what you have to do.
Okay.
Okay, well, who is going to do the overview this morning? Who do we have?
So it's, good morning, everybody. I'm Joe Segali from the Agency of Transportation, Director of Policy Planning and Research. And we'll be talking about our strategic plan. And I have with me Jana Guilford and Manny Sands from our performance section. So I'm going to give it, I'm going to talk about our overall strategic plan, and then they're going to get into some details on some performance measures.
Okay, it's all yours. Go ahead.
Okay, I just need to get control of the screen, Liz. Is that, okay, let's see. Oh, it's not, you haven't enabled it yet. It doesn't appear.
Yeah, so Joe, I just made you a co-host.
Okay.
Is anyone else co-hosting with you?
Yeah,
Manny?
Manny will be
Okay.
doing a presentation. And
Manny, do you want me to make you a co-host as well right now?
I'll be coming up at when Joe finishes. So
Okay.
if it's more convenient for you to do it now, then it's okay.
Okay, I'll see if I can do it now too. Okay, I'm off.
So can everybody see this right now, the title slide, strategic plan?
Yes.
Okay, great. So as I mentioned, I'm going to go over our plan, and I know Secretary Flynn he went over this in his presentation, at least at the start of it. And I'm going to go into a little bit more detail and talk about where we are with the status and give some context of it. And then Manny's going to drill down a little bit further on some specific performance measures related to the General Assembly's outcome reporting that we're required to do. So just starting with the overall environment in which we develop our strategic plan, there's three elements that we coordinate with. First is the FAST Act, which is Fixing America's Transportation System. That's the Federal Transportation Act, and we obviously have to coordinate with that. Half of our funding comes from the federal government. There's the General Assembly's outcome report, and I'm going to go over each one of these in a little bit more detail in a second. And then there's the governor's statewide strategic plan, which we have an important part of. And then, of course, there's just kind of what's going on in the state of practice and, taking care of the system, what's new and innovative. And so we fold all of those things into the agency's overall plan. So starting with the national goals established in federal transportation law, these probably look familiar to most of you. They're not that surprising, but safety is always at the top of the list. Infrastructure condition, which is where we invest a big chunk of our budget every year. Reducing congestion, and depending where you are in Vermont, congestion. We have hot spots everywhere in Vermont. Maybe more so in Chittenden County, but almost every small city in Vermont experiences some level of congestion during the peak hour. System reliability, that has to do with on a regular basis, when you're traveling to Montpelier to go to the State House, in the good old days when you used to go to the State House, you could count on it taking you 20 minutes. And, as long as that didn't change that much over time, or you didn't have too many days and maybe it was 30 minutes, that means the system is fairly reliable. And for the most part, I think in Vermont, our system is reliable. You can almost always get to where you need to go in the time that you think it's going to take. And you sort of adjust. If you are dealing with congestion, that's something that you deal with every day. But it's those sudden changes, like bad weather can obviously increase the amount of time. Sometimes work zones or crashes. So we have ways to measure that. And then freight movement and economic vitality is really important. Obviously, getting our goods and services outside of Vermont to our external customers, so we bring that money back in, and also getting the goods and services that we need in Vermont is important to our economy. Environmental sustainability, we do a lot at the agency to make sure our projects are not just complying with federal and state environmental laws, but a lot of times we're trying to enhance the environment. And then reducing project delivery delays, and that's all has to do with just being more efficient. So these are what the feds require us to do. So we build this into our planning. Many of you were around when this was developed, the annual General Assembly outcome report. It seems like maybe 6 or 7 years ago now. And the legislature developed these 10 outcomes, they call them. And I'm not going to read them all, but they cover all aspects of society, if you will. And the ones that I highlighted in red are the outcomes that the agency probably has the most direct relationship to. So a safe place to live. So safety, again, is huge for us. If our roads are safe, that means the communities are safe. Vermont has open, effective, and inclusive government. That's something that all elements of all agencies and departments and sections and units have to think about, is involving the public. And I think we do a ton at the agency, bringing the public into all of our projects. It's just part and parcel of what we do. And then our infrastructure meets the needs of Vermonters, the economy, and the environment. I mean, that's the one that you could arguably say is the most directly related to what we do, because we are taking care of, this huge infrastructure around the state. And the transportation network is, the economy couldn't happen without it. Our quality of life wouldn't be as good as it is without our transportation system. So Manny is gonna, we kind of organize this. So Manny will talk about these specific things at the end. But I'm gonna keep kind of going along. So these are the governor's 4 priorities. And of course, all state agencies have aligned their planning with these priorities. So growing the economy, making Vermont more affordable, protecting the vulnerable, and modernizing and making our government more efficient. So now I'm going to kind of drill down a little bit more into our strategic plan. And first is the mission statement, which the mission is what we do as an agency every day. It's our job, and it's to provide for the safe and reliable movement of people and goods with efficiency and excellent customer service. And I've been at the agency 9 years now, and we've been working a lot on customer service. And a big part of that is just being able to put yourself in the shoes of the people that you're talking with and understanding what their needs are. And Secretary Flynn, one of the things that really sticks in my mind, that he really emphasizes is to say, we used to say, we're not doing that. And now, it's like, yes, but, right? So there's always, let's talk about it. Let's see kind of what the issue is, and let's see if we can find a way to, move forward and kind of meet your needs in the context of all the other challenges that we have to do. And then our vision it's the vision for the system itself. It's like, what is it we're trying to build? We're trying to build a safe, reliable, and multimodal transportation system that grows the economy, is affordable, and protects the vulnerable. And really what this is saying is the transportation system has a purpose. We just don't have the system for its own sake. We're trying to support the economy and improve the quality of life of all Vermonters. So I'm gonna, this just shows there's five goals under our strategic plan. And this shows how they align with the governor's priorities. And I'm just going to jump into each one of these and explain them, and then talk about what we've been doing to achieve these goals. So the first goal is promoting organizational excellence by attracting, developing, and retaining a talented, diverse, and engaged workforce. Or to put it more simply, this is our workforce development goal. And it aligns with the governor's government efficiency goal. And, we've been, again, in my time here, I've seen lots of changes in the people that are here. There's been lots of retirements of people with, 30 years of experience leaving, and then we have new people coming in. And so it's important that we're able to retain and keep the people that we attract. And one of the really important things that we do is we do professional development and help people grow within the agency. You're going to be hearing from Christine Hetzel and Lori Valburn later this week, and they'll go into more detail. But as I was talking to them, we've had in the last year 25,000 incidents of training, and so that seems like a lot, right? We have 1,200 or so employees. It's about 20 20 or so incidents per person a year. And some of that is just 5 or 10 minute, online quick training on a particular topic, or it could be the safety talks that happen at the job sites, or it could be more intensive, all day trainings. But we've gotten organized, and training is just what part of what we do. So that's really been integrated in what we do. And then providing tools to supervisors to support employee retention and their quality of life. So there was a survey done a few years ago, an employee satisfaction survey, and one of the biggest challenges is the relationship that an employee has with their supervisor, and that's the if somebody leaves, it's most often because they're not getting along with their supervisor, and maybe there's good reasons on both sides of that relationship, but so what we're trying to do is provide supervisors with the tools to avoid that and manage that. And one of the tools that they have is just this online tool. And right now, of course, a lot of what's on there is focusing how you manage people remotely, which is a bit of a challenge these days. I find it's actually, for the folks that I supervise, it's going really well, but I supervise, a certain type of employee. For other areas of the agency, there might be more challenges to that. Providing employees with ongoing inclusion and civility training. So 100% of our employees have gotten the required training, and then that happens on a regular, that gets refreshed on a regular basis. And then doing the onboarding. So when a new employee comes on board, they get the right orientation. And so when I came on board 9 years ago, my first day was I got a big white binder with all of the HR policies. I met with HR for 20 minutes, I think, and then I got a to-do list, and then I was kind of sent on my way to start working. And now we're a little bit more deliberate about it. There's training, there's, they get to meet the executive staff kind of in a big meeting and hear what everybody does. And there's the inclusion and civility training happens at that time. And, when you're coming into state government, we're a big agency, so you have to get used to that. And then, we're part of an even bigger, body with the state of Vermont. So if you're not used to working in that kind of environment, you just need some orientation to be able to understand how it works here. So they've done a great job.
Right.
And the training center and our civil rights unit, and kind of bringing us on board. And this goal we're totally on top of. And now the question is, what do we do next? So growing the economy by providing a safe, reliable, and efficient system that in a state of good repair. One of the things that we're launching this year for our budget, for the 23 budget, not the budget you're about to look at, is the update to the transportation project selection and prioritization process, which is defined in statute. And a few years ago, a couple of criteria were added for flood resilience and also health that we had to start thinking about. And admittedly, it's been taking us a long time to work on this because it's a challenging process. Kevin Marshy is now leading that, and I think you're going to hear from him later on this session, and he'll go into some more detail. But the big change to that system is that it now will provide a path for adding new projects to the capital program. And that's been a challenge for the last, I would say, 15 to 20 years, and we've had a focus of fixing the system first. And, we've done a good job getting the system in a state of good repair, and we're getting a bunch of legacy projects done. And so now the question is, well, what do we do next to modernize and expand the system? So we're providing a path for regionally identified projects. And we worked a lot with the regional planning commissions to develop that system. Of course, reducing the number of major crashes, and Manny will have some numbers on that. Increasing passenger rail capacity in the Western Corridor. So there's been work done, upgrading the bridges, the Virgins, the Virgins train station, work that's been done in Burlington to prepare for the train. And there's been, I think, almost $32 million of investment in the bridges and infrastructure to increase the weight load in that corridor. So, I'd say we're on track to achieving that goal. Resilience planning is what we're doing for getting ready for the next flood. And that's a tool that I've been involved in developing, and we'll have that expanded statewide by June. And it's already helped us identify some projects, a project down on Route 9 in particular, that we're moving forward with a FEMA grant to make that road more resilient to flood damage. And then we have a couple of corridor management plans that we completed, one in Route 100 from Waterbury to Morrisville, one on Route 30 from Brattleboro to Winhall. And we have one right now underway on Route 9. And again, that's what we're trying to do with corridor management planning, is take a broader look. So when our engineers go in with specific projects, they kind of know what the needs and desires are for the local folks along the corridor, and we try to incorporate those in our paving and bridge projects and so on. Then making Vermont more affordable and serving the vulnerable by providing accessible, convenient, and affordable travel choices. The one specific objective we had on here was developing this statewide automated vehicle location and mobility on-demand trip planner. So what that is an app on smartphones that you can use to know when is the next bus coming, did I miss the bus, where is it located? And one of the common anxiety about using public transit is, have I missed the bus? Do I know when it's going to come? And this now answers that question. And it's been, so it's all of our providers have this available now. So this is a really important improvement that we have in it, and it just makes the system work better. Transitioning to an energy efficient, advanced technology transportation system. We have an objective by 2020 to have a fast charge station within 30 minutes of every household in Vermont. We have, we're about to enter a contract, or I should say, Agency of Commerce and Community Development's about to enter a contract to purchase 11 of these charging stations. And when those are installed this year, we will have achieved this goal. And a lot of that money is coming from the VW settlement to pay for that. So we're gonna now we should probably push the goal more. Maybe we should have a fast charging station, with 20 minutes of every Vermont household, and kind of keep moving in that direction. And then facilitating the deployment of connected and automated vehicles and unmanned aerial systems. So, a connected vehicle is a vehicle that has technology on board that can speak to like traffic signals or roadway weather information systems, or to other vehicles. And that technology, that of course it's the manufacturers that have to put that on their system, on their vehicles, and that's slowly coming out. But we have a pilot project now on Shelburne Road in South Burlington and Shelburne that's adding equipment to our traffic signal controllers that's going to provide that ability to communicate with vehicles, while also allowing us in real time to adjust the traffic signal to the traffic volume that's on the road. So often with traffic signals, small tweaks can make a big difference on how well the flow of traffic's happening. So, that's an example of new technology, and we want to see how it works so we can do that in other parts of the state. I've been working on automated vehicles, and this fall we had the guidance document and permit process approved by the traffic committee that allows for the testing of automated vehicles on public roads in Vermont, and that implements the Automated Vehicle Testing Act, which you all passed in 2019. And I've been working with Michael Wachowski on that, and we're reaching out to communities of Bellows Falls and town of Rockingham is one of them that's formed a working group to look at allowing testing on their roads, and Springfield has expressed interest. And so we keep working on that to try to attract a tester to come to Vermont. And with unmanned aerial systems, we've purchased a couple of them. We're using them. Partly what they're for is like when there's a flood, we can use them for situational awareness and to do damage assessments. And we've also done a research project on how to use them to inspect bridges, right? So when you have bridges, the bridge inspectors have to climb under the bridge and see what's happening. And so these drones, easier way to say it, can fly under the bridge, take pictures and see what's going on. And so what the research project was doing is like, can that be done in a way that we feel is reliable enough? And then this is the last goal, modernize and improve government efficiency through innovation, continuous improvement, and quality customer service. So we're continuously improving the project development process. We reduced the amount of time it takes for the engineering and right-of-way phase. I can't quite see my notes here I guess we reduced from 1,600 days, from 2,200 days to about 1,600 days. So that's a pretty big improvement, I think. And the more that projects are delayed in those phases, the more they end up costing. And then we have also reduce the percentage of the cost of engineering and right of way by about 10%. It's about a quarter of the total cost of developing a project usually. And so, we've reduced that maybe 3%, but that's a 10% reduction, just for those two items. And that was a goal that the governor set for us, and we've met that target this year. We're completing the oversized, overweight permitting system, an online system for trucks when they need to get oversized or overweight permit. And so what that really involves now is, the permit application comes in to DMV, and then it has to go to our structural engineers and to our traffic operational engineers, and they have to identify routes that are, that are safe, that a truck can follow. And so that takes time, right? You got to say, well, if you're going from point A to point B, avoid this bridge, but go this way. And then that goes back to the truckers, and sometimes things change on the ground. So the online system is going to make that much more efficient. And for us as well as for the customer. And so that is expected to be starting this year. I think there's an RFP out, or maybe they're working with the vendor now, but the idea is that it will be in place by late summer or fall this year. So that will be a huge improvement. And then developing an online permit application system for our permits to work in the highway right of way. And those permits, more often than not, are for things like new driveways, for new development, or for a home, if you're on along a state highway. And you can fill out an application online now, but the system's not automated. So we're working with the Agency of Digital Services now to scope that out, and we'll have that underway relatively soon. And then, I hope that sort of what you're hearing me say is that a lot of the goals and objectives that we've established with our strategic plan, we're pretty far along in achieving those. And the plan was first developed, with the idea it was from 2018 to 2023. But where we are now is, since I think we've made lots of progress, is now we need to update the plan and look to, the next plan. And of course, there's been some, huge changes with COVID and the pandemic and the way it's affecting travel and transportation, both as an agency, but also the system itself. And we've been doing some surveys during the pandemic to track how people's travel patterns are changing. And, this show, one of the big topics that everybody's hearing about is telework and telecommunication. And so this is a survey of Vermonters. And you can see that, depending on the type of job. So if it's a professional job, so it's the adult employees teleworking at home or partially by industry category. So generally professional job, more people can work at home than if you don't. If you have a mixed job, so you both maybe need to be in the field or, at a certain site, and you can, work in an office, then, it's about half the people can telework, which makes sense. And an on-site job, not so much. I think the big opportunity here is that people have experienced teleworking now, and the question is how many people will continue to telework or want to telework after the pandemic is over, and how many employers will support that. And so the bottom chart shows that most of the people who can telework, almost 60% want to telework 4 days or more, and so this is a big opportunity, I think, for us. We hadn't really done a lot with teleworking as a transportation agency before this. It always seemed like it was kind of too small to matter, quite frankly, because there wasn't a lot of people doing it. But this starts to have the potential to reduce congestion during the PM peak hour in particular. And so, it could save us some money. And so what should we be doing as an agency to maybe facilitate that and to help employers maybe expand that? And then just in terms of our own operation, we've been talking about it a lot. It's like, I think more of us are going to continue to telework after the pandemic is over. But what's the right number of days? How do you continue to manage people? And there's an effort going on statewide for all the state government that's looking at this and giving us guidance and so on. And then the Federal Transportation Act is going to be reauthorized. It was supposed to be authorized last September, but they extended it till next September. There's probably going to be more money coming to Vermont, which could be a really good thing, obviously. But there are also, usually there's other requirements that come along. We're expecting there to be a specific program and funding to do resilience And resilience around the country isn't just about flooding. There's cybersecurity that people are worried about, all sorts of other threats that are out there. So, how do we become resilient to that? So they're going to be providing money. So we'll have a program for that. Some of it might be formula funding. Some of it might be more like grant kind of money. So we need to get prepared for that. And then the Global Warming Solutions Act, which passed last year, an outcome of that is going to be the Climate Action Plan, which is due at the end of this year. And since the transportation system generates about half of the greenhouse gases in Vermont, there's likely going to be some direction given to the Agency of Transportation on, programs and policies and priorities that we need to start thinking about, and that will affect our strategic planning. I mean, we're engaged in that totally. The secretary is on the committee, the council, obviously, and the staff are involved, and that's just getting off the ground now. So, and then there's just always changes, innovative changes in technologies. Again, connected and automated vehicles are coming, and we need to get ready for those and start to take advantage of it. So we're ready to move on to the next plan, and I think we've made lots of progress. So I can stop here and answer any questions, or we could, the next.
Yeah, Joe, why don't we, before we move on,
Yeah.
why don't we have it, if there's any questions from anyone, because you've covered quite a bit of territory here, and
Yep.
let's open it up for any questions at this point before we move on to someone else. Any questions out there? If I can't see you, just speak up.
Yeah. Senator Mazza?
Yes, Senator Perchlik.
Thanks, Joe. It's always good to have you in the committee. And I know that the Transportation Agency is working on the Climate Action Plan with that council. And I know you guys are always very involved in the Comprehensive Energy Plan that the Department of Public Service does. I can't remember if you guys are involved in BGS's agency energy plan, which would speak more directly to the agency's energy use. So the buildings that the agency heats, the fuel that you use for your own trucks. Do you have any planning that you do to look specifically at the agency's energy use and how to make transitions in that?
Yes, we do. And I know BGS does a plan. Quite frankly, I don't know when the last time that was updated. Seems like it's been a few years, but we've gone through and, done the inventory of all our facilities and our fleet, and then we're looking for strategies to make changes in that as necessary. But yeah, we're absolutely involved in that.
Okay, so Agency of Transportation's buildings and vehicles are included in that. I think it was
Right.
2016 was the last one, but okay.
It seems about right. Yeah.
Okay, I'll look at it.
Questions?
I also had another question.
Sure, go right ahead.
I know the administration has had this 30-mile per electric charging station, or a 30-mile radius, which was a good start, but like you mentioned, maybe there's a different goal that we had switched to, because a radius doesn't help you if it takes you, because that's like as the crow flies, so it might take you 60 miles to get to the charging station. And I think in particular, what I found with my electric car and with what I've heard from other electric car drivers, it's the fast chargers along the corridors. So I'd be interested in developing, the next generation metric of how we're succeeding with the charging stations.
Okay. Yeah, when we're ready to jump into that, we'll circle back with you. But we haven't, we're about ready to close the 30-mile gap, and like I said, we need to start looking about what's next.
Yeah, that's great.
Anybody else?
Yes.
Yes.
Senator Mazza.
Yes.
Thank you. Director, I was going to ask this question yesterday, and I didn't know if it was premature or not, but it keeps on coming up and will keep on coming up. Are we looking for active sites or suggestions of where we can put some of these charger stations, or what's the process for locating those sites?
So I'm not involved in that specifically, but I'll still take it, at the chance that I might give you bad information. There's grants that are provided, and my understanding is that there is a process for looking at potential sites and things like, does it have 3-phase power, and all those sort of necessary feasibility. But I can get you more information on that.
That'd be great. We've looked at it before up into some of our areas, our remote areas, because we're all the way at the top of the state. And when we have people who are traveling from out of state to that area, they're really having to plan strategically of how they're going to not only get there, but get back. So I would be interested in that.
Okay.
Well, good. Make a note of that. Well, I guess we'd all be interested in that. So we'll make it up.
Okay. Yep.
One of our items, if you could have someone
You know,
to discuss it.
I
Yes,
got
Michelle.
sort of an update and from Michelle, because I had some questions raised. I don't know, this was several months ago. And I think she indicated that there's quite a bit of work underway to bring things up to date. And it was rather interesting, like campers that are using the park and rides as sort of the permanent charging. It was kind of it was quite a detailed list of issues and efforts underway. And I can see if I can get that and send it out as well. But Michelle did indicate that this is obviously an area that they're spending a lot of time and really updating policy. So, but some of the experiences to date I found rather interesting. And I just wanted to let people know that if I can find it, I'll send it out to you.
I think Senator Kitzel, you have a charging station in your area, just kind of doing the homework of where it was. And I was very interested of putting one up in the Derby area because it's the top of the state. So I did a little research into it, and it looked like it, of all things, it was more controlled by the power companies than it was at the state level.
It was installed and you pay, and it's Green Mountain Power that put it in. And it's at Marty's, which happens to be my brother. And the reason that the site worked is because of the 3-phase power so readily available. And that is on a major Route 2 corridor. But yes, that is one that was done by the power company, right?
We're going to get to a point where we want some of that money for replacement of the gas tax. So that's going to be the big issue, how we can get our share of electric vehicles that are using our roads and not paying any gas tax. So we want to make sure that we will be working with the power companies, and as soon as we get some sort of a program that we get a piece of that action.
Senator Maza, may I make 2 comments?
Yes, go right ahead, Senator Chittenden.
On slide 6, I would love to connect your mission and vision with what I heard you close the presentation with, recognizing the Global Warming Solutions Act and how you want to refresh your thinking. As I look at your mission and vision statement, something important for discussion at this level, I would love to see you recognize the importance of addressing the climate emergency. There's a home improvement project in the background. My apologies for the noise. So adding the word eco-friendly possibly, so provide the safe, eco-friendly and reliable movement. And then for the vision statement, I think adding another is affordable and minimizes carbon emissions and protects the vulnerable. I just think that might be the type of guidance that on a day-to-day basis might help guide decision-making so that it's clear to everybody throughout VTrans that the climate emergency, the concerns with CO2 emissions is relevant and should be factored into our decisions. The other second comment, really great presentation. I love that you as an organization are looking at teleworking. I do a course at UVM on green IT and virtualization, and I'm always like to inject that to help frame your policies. I love to distinguish between a teleworker and a telecommuter. So a telecommuter is somebody that can drive in, but you might design policies to allow them to work from home as their schedule permits, as opposed to a teleworker who you don't have dedicated physical office space for. So you'd have a different set of policies for telework versus telecommuting. Great presentation, Joe. Thank you so much.
Thank you. And I really appreciate your comments on how to improve the vision statement. That's really helpful. And it gives me something I can bring back, and say, this is what I heard in, the Senate Transportation Committee. The other thing I want to mention about just, teleworking or teletraveling might be a way to think about it is, like I had a couple of doctor's appointments that I did online, and I think more people are doing that as well. So it's not just about working. There's other services that people are, may start getting more online now that we're used to that. So again, that's another opportunity.
Joe, I have one question myself. We had a lot of conversation last year in our committee about truckers getting permits for overweight, overlength vehicles, and I heard you say earlier that it'd probably be into effect by summer or late fall. I'd like more information on how that's going to work. And so, do you have the plans now, or do you want something you're going to bring it back later? It doesn't have to be today.
Yeah, Jana is involved in that project. And
Okay.
Jana, I don't know if you can provide any more background on that.
Well, that's right. When we get to that, that's fine. I would like to,
Okay.
I would just like to, because we had a lot of discussion in our committee about that issue. And if we can make it easier for both us and the truckers to be able to get their permits, it would be, because I know we had a lot of discussion about that with the Truck and Bus Association. And so I'd just like an update on that if we could sometimes. Thank you.
Okay.
Anything else? Anybody else? Yes, Senator Kitchell.
Yeah, and I guess this gets back to a comment that Senator Chittenden had mentioned, and that is the University of Vermont, and we have that transportation center. And I'm just wondering, Joe, the extent to which we're using that resource. I know you actually fund, I believe, funding from AOT to the center. How their work or how this resource is being utilized in your work.
So we have a cooperative agreement with the University of Vermont to support our research program. And so that's kind of the mechanism by which we can go to them to help us with certain things. We have some of the work that they do for us on a regular basis is, we have a statewide travel demand model, which estimates traffic flows and changes. You can, evaluate the impact of changes in land use. And, I used it recently for a study I just did on, which I'll be talking about eventually for all of you, looking at truck permit issues. And we use it for resilience planning and so on. So they've been supporting that every year for us. It's kind of an ongoing thing. They also have done an update to they do our energy profile, transportation energy profile every 2 years. And then they do a variety of research projects on any number of topics. We have about $300,000 a year that we use for external research. And so we work with them on that. And that's they actually had a lock on that for a while, but we've made that into a little bit more of a competitive process too. So we can, allow other institutions in Vermont to, maybe some proposed ideas so that we can work with them. But yes, we absolutely work with the Transportation Research Center on a regular basis.
Anyone else? Anything else before we move on? Yes. Senator Pritchard.
Chairman, I was just going to add on to your comment, Chair, on the truck permits, and specifically, I can't remember where we left it. I think it was just one of those things that we dropped because of COVID. But specifically
Woodstock.
Yeah, exactly. And I can't remember if the online permitting was going to help or hurt that, or I just hope that we pick that up again. It's always a fun discussion.
Oh yeah, always Woodstock. They always have an issue there. So for the committee that don't recognize that, it's always an issue.
I can answer that a little bit. So I'll be submitting a legislative study tomorrow on the truck permit issue. There were 3 issues. One was the special permit in Woodstock and what are the impacts if that's repealed. Another one had to do with what if you allowed trucks to travel on Class 2 town highways without getting a municipal permit, which is like raising the allowable load from 24,000 to 80,000. And the third one, the trickiest one, quite frankly, was the wrecker question. We require an oversized overweight permit. If a wrecker goes out and picks up a large vehicle, they have to get it to a safe haven and either break it down and move it to its final destination or get a permit. So it's like, well, what if we just let them go where they wanted to go? What are the consequences of that? So that'll be submitted tomorrow, and then I'm sure I'll be testifying on that to you all.
I've had the record people after me this summer with their issues about when they go to pick up a car. Are the participants or the riders of the car allowed to ride in the record? And oh my God, that's going back and forth and back and forth. So I got to get some clarification this session of what to do. And I don't, we've never had this discussion before, but sometime we'll have to talk about that and what the policy is. I guess right now it's different on different police departments, how they allow people who are stranded on the interstate. How do you get them off the interstate? Do you let them ride in their car when they're being towed, or you let them ride in a truck, which they don't want to do it? So it may not sound like a big issue, but it is for the record people.
Mhm.
Anyway, anything else? Anybody else have any questions at this time before we move on? Thank you very much, Joe. And if you want to move on or continue, whatever you want to do, it's in your
Yeah.
hands.
So I'll hand it over to Manny.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah, thanks, everybody.
Thank you.
Okay, good morning. This is Manny Sains, and I'm from the performance section. And what I do is I develop tools, visualizations, and dashboards to analyze data. And I'm hoping that I'm sharing with you this dashboard. Can you guys all see it?
Yep.
Okay. So this is the results accountability dashboard, and I just want to explain what this is. These are performance measures or indicators that were created, as Joe had mentioned earlier, maybe 5 years ago, and we track these every year. And as part of state statute, we report these in September, October timeframe. And so I just want to point out in this. So we use the data set of the previous year because we don't have the current year. Obviously in September it's a little bit too early to have end of year numbers. So what we report here is for this year will be 2019. I believe you'll be seeing some presentation material where some of these measures we do have 2020 results now. They're not included on here. I do have the numbers for some of those. So if you have any questions about that, I can raise that. The reason why we're doing it this way is at least this way we can show you the trends of how we're doing for these RBA measures. And so I wasn't planning on describing each one of these one by one, but I can just point out some generalities of some of them. For example, for safety and traffic, we have one indicator that says reduce major crashes at intersections. This is a 5-year average, and you might be alarmed that it jumped up by 3% in 2019. But what I've been told is our data set is really small. It's like in that particular year there was only 60 accidents, so it had gone up by 8 accidents. So it jumped the number up substantially. However, we already do have 2020 data, and it will be back down 6% for 2020. So I don't believe there's anything alarming there. As far as the other 2 measures for safety and traffic operations, I think we're doing quite fine. Moving down to our performance measure for Department of Motor Vehicles, they've always had this issue of trying to meet, actually not always, looks like they did meet their goal, for attending to customers within 30 minutes. And I do know that they had plans and they were implementing the plans to improve on this for this year. But of course, with COVID, there's no way they can meet their plan. But anyways, their trend is down. They know their trend is down, and the online transactions are supposed to improve this. And I believe the data that we are starting to see now, it is improving it, but we will not be seeing that improvement until next reporting period. Moving down to our pavement program, we generally are in line with our performance measures for pavement, so I don't think there's too much that I can talk about there. When it comes to interstate bridges, state highway bridges, and town highway bridges, we generally do quite well there. One area that we do seem to have issues with is in the bid advertisement, meeting 80% on time. And if you don't understand what that measure actually is, what it is on January 1st, there's a plan on when we're going to do bid advertisements for all the projects that are planned for that particular year. And we measure ourselves against that particular plan on whether we are within 90 days of issuing the bid. And so for interstate bridges, again, this is 2019 data, and I believe you're going to see some data on some other presentation material. They're going to have 2020, and we do not meet that particular performance measure. And I believe the subject matter experts in those presentations are going to explain to you why we did not meet the those goals. And I think the same thing is true for state highway bridges. We had the same issues with the advertisement within 80%. In Town Highway, actually for 2019, we did meet the goal, but for 2020, I believe we do not meet the goal. Moving down to the transit programs. So you might be alarmed here. So for 2019, the cost per transit trip has increased. And the main reason for that is that there's been a change in policy. From 2019, they started to include the non-emergency medical transportation, which is Medicare, Medicaid cost, as well as ADA paratransit and mileage reimbursement costs are now included into our measure. And that is the reason why it jumped to $9.71. The transit ridership trend has been positive. Over here, I have a trend here that says down. Actually, I believe this is not correct. I believe the trend has been up, but we believe the trend is going to be going down because of COVID, of course. So we've had, in 2019, we had a really nice increase in ridership. These 220 numbers here are actual numbers. They're not the targets. I put the actuals in. And with COVID, we're targeting lower numbers for the next fiscal year. Moving down to rail. Again, rail had a pretty good increase in 2019. And with suspension for 2020, we don't have any targets for 2020 or 2021 until we can see in the future what's going to be happening. So that's all I have for my presentation. These are the performance measures that we track. And we report, as I said, in statute and in the October timeframe.
Okay, questions from Manuel? Yes, Senator Pertlick.
Manuel, is this presentation, did you send this also to the committee? Because I couldn't really read it on the shared screen here, it's too small, but if you sent it, then I could.
Yes, it was sent. It should be part of the presentation package.
Okay.
I apologize. You can't see what I have here.
Well, it's hard to read it all on my little laptop screen that I have right now.
Oh, okay. Yeah. Sorry about that.
It's okay.
Any other questions, comments?
One quick one, Senator Mazza.
Sure.
On the major crashes metric, do you parse that out by contributing factors, be it distracted driving, drugs, alcohol, or weather conditions?
Yes, the data is. That is not one of our measures for RBA, but we do have data sets that do have it broken out like that. If that's something that you'd like to see, we can provide that.
Okay. I think you're muted, Senator Chittenden.
My apologies. Since it's spiked in 2019, I'm intrigued to know if it's likely contributed to distracted driving and these smartphones that are glued to everybody's hands.
That certainly is a big issue. They're still distracted. The phones are still distracting drivers. You see them every day. They just don't put those phones down. Yeah. Any other questions or comments? Okay, thank you very much.
Thank you.
Who's up next?
That's it for our presentation on the strategic plan. I don't know what else is on your agenda.
I think next we have, let's see, where am I? Who is up? Today's Thursday. Highway Division overview.
Okay, why don't we take a little break right now before we start the new one? And we'll take a 10-minute break and we'll get back started again, okay?
Okay.
Thank you.
We are taking a 10-minute break. Ten-minute break, just so you know. Hi there. We're just taking a 10-minute break.
Thank you, Liz. We're just getting ready for 10, so everybody's
Yep.
logging on now.
Okay, I'm supposed to put up a break screen, so you do your thing. And should I make you co-host, Wayne, so that you can? I probably should. Whoever's doing the presentation.
Okay, yeah, I can just share my screen and present the PowerPoint that way, whichever way is easier for you.
Yeah. No, you share, but that means I need to make you a
Okay.
co-host. So is it just you? Because I'm going to take off the other people.
Yeah, I think the plan is just for me to run the PowerPoint
Okay.
all the way through.
Okay. Let me just figure out how to do that.
Hey, Wayne, this is Andy Perchlik.
And just so you know, we're on YouTube Live still.
Yeah. Did you also send the presentation to Liz? I didn't hear what you just said, because sometimes when people share their screen, it doesn't go full screen. And as a viewer, you don't have ability to zoom in or anything. Sometimes it's great if we also have access to it separately, that we could just.
Oh yeah, you should have it. Do you see it on your committee page?
I saw Joe's, but I didn't see any of the others.
Can you refresh your screen?
Yeah, that's probably what it is.
And I'm going to work on trying to figure out how to. Okay.
I guess Wayne's is there. I guess just the last one wasn't.
Oh no, I had to add that. I apologize.
Okay. Both the Waynes are out there.
They are not.
They are both.
Okay. Okay, so I'm going to go mute and do my best. Okay, Wayne, you are now a co-host, so you can share your screen and make the presentation.
All right, thank you.
Yeah.
Again, Senator Mazza, I'm just going to look for cues if I'm talking too much. So you just let me know.
Hi there. So what are they doing? Tearing apart your house?
I'm working on it too. My father-in-law's up from Boston. He's helping me redo a bathroom. So
Oh, all right. Low labor cost.
he's conforming to all quarantine procedures. So he's got we're just glad to have him. And I certainly need his expertise on leveling floors. And
There you
whatnot.
go. You're paying them so much an hour minimum wage, aren't you? Okay.
I'd be working with him right now if I could, but
Yeah, I just went to 1175. So just,
he's a great guy. I'll bring him by the store maybe.
Okay. All right. Liz, can you hear me? Probably not.
Yes, I can hear you.
Would you, I hate to ask you, but would you, Denise is supposed to give me numbers for the institutions committee this afternoon, but she hasn't called yet.
Yep,
Could you give her a shout and tell her
Yep.
I need those numbers? I appreciate that. Thank you.
on it. Yep, I'm going back on mute.
Okay, I guess we can come back on.
Okay, just a reminder, you're still live.
All right, are we, everybody back with us?
I can email everyone to round them up.
Okay, so who's next on who's the next speaker?
Good morning,
Next,
Senator. I think that would be me.
Be you. Okay, Wayne. All right. I think we might as well get started. They should be here momentarily. So it is 10 o'clock and we can get rolling. Thank you.
All right. Good morning. For the record, my name is Wayne Simmons, and I'm the Chief Engineer for the Highway Division at the Agency of Transportation. And I'm here with some folks this morning from the division to provide a little bit more of an overview of what it is that we do in the Highway Division. Hopefully to provide some context for some more detailed testimony that you'll have later in the session regarding the budget and other topics that might come before you. Joining me today in the order of presentation is Ann Gamble, who's the Deputy Chief Engineer for the Highway Division. We also have Kevin Marshy, who is the Asset Management Bureau Director. Rob White, the Project Delivery Bureau Director. Todd Law, the Maintenance Bureau Director. And we've got Tammy Ellis, who's the Central Garage Superintendent. Josh Schultz, who is the Operations and Safety Bureau Director. And also I did miss Nick Vandenberg is with us as well. He's a materials engineer and he's filling in for Milan Gagulik, who is the Bureau Director for Construction and Materials. And we have one PowerPoint that, with your permission, Mr. Chair, that we'll just walk through, and the different speakers will jump in when it's appropriate for them in the PowerPoint.
Yep.
And
Fine with me. Go right
with
ahead.
that, I'm sorry.
Yep, go right ahead, whatever you have.
Okay.
Yep.
So with that, I will I'll turn it over to Ann, who is going to take the first slide, and let me see if I can share my screen appropriately. And just
Okay, good morning.
Good morning.
My name is Ann Gamble. I'm the Deputy Chief Engineer of the Highway Division. It's very nice to meet you and I appreciate the opportunity to be here. Our division is made up of 5 bureaus and central garage. Our slides show how that we fit into the agency structure. Our second slide shows our partners with the Department of Motor Vehicles, Finance and Administration, and our policy planning and intermodal divisions. We support each other in the functions that we're all responsible for. On slide 3, we show how we manage programs, perform engineering, construction, and maintenance, as well as provide assistance to our municipalities. We all have specialties that we focus on, and our bureau chiefs are here with us today to go into the details of their groups. I wanted to point out that we have modified how our organizational chart looks over the past year without deleting any services. We've had 2 significant bureau chief retirements. Chad Allen, who led our Asset Management Bureau, brought Vermont to the forefront in asset management activities. We're happy to announce that Kevin Marshy has stepped into that leadership role and hasn't missed a beat for us. Sue Scribner managed the Municipal Assistance Bureau. And with Sue Scribner's retirement, we took the opportunity to draw upon Project Delivery Bureau Chief Rob White's experience in local transportation facilities and merged the Municipal Assistance Bureau with our Project Delivery Bureau. We believe this gives additional support and provides for a seamless transition for our towns. We have not altered any services, and we are working hard to show a cohesive approach to transportation projects all across the Highway Division. And with that, I'm going to turn the presentation back over to Chief Engineer Wayne Simmons. Thank you.
You.
So just to set the stage briefly for the testimony that you'll be hearing in a moment, I just wanted to share, and probably even the new members are probably somewhat tired of hearing about our mission and vision, but I just wanted to use this to set the context for the work that we have been doing. And the mission and vision are these statements, and honestly, I half the time get them wrong when I try to recite them. So I often simplify them down into the mission is what we do, and it's customer service, it's being efficient, it's providing for safety and mobility for the traveling public. And it was probably about 2 years ago that the customer service piece was added to our mission statement. And I think that it's been a work in progress for us to understand what it means to provide customer service. Certainly customer service, we have one big customer, and that's the traveling public. But what we've really been working on more recently is the customer that's the small customer, which is the individual that might have a concern about safety or mobility, and how do they connect with us to make their concerns known or to share their ideas with us. And I know that since I've been in this position, I realize that I've become the conduit for a lot of those concerns, and a lot of those concerns get raised to you senators or the representatives, and then they get forwarded to me to deal with. And I often have thought, like, well, gee, I wonder why they're going directly to the senators or the representatives. And sometimes I find out it's because they feel like they've been a little bit frustrated about how they can reach out, who they need to talk to get help. Sometimes it's a lack of transparency for phone numbers. And this is really something that we've worked on diligently in the Highway Division for the last couple of years. And I don't have a dashboard like Performance had a few minutes ago about numbers of complaints or things, but what I can say is that I feel like I'm getting fewer concerns getting raised to us through elected officials, and I feel like people are getting connected with us in the right way, and we're doing a better job of making sure that those concerns are heard and dealt with across the varying bureaus. If you look at the org chart and what we do, it can be quite daunting at times, even for somebody that's inside of the agency. We've got much better about making sure that we work together to meet the needs. And certainly that goes to efficiency. And I think you're going to be hearing about the efficiency theme. It goes to our asset management, and it goes to a lot of the stuff that you're going to hear about in CG today. And certainly safety, that's job number one. And mobility is why mobility is the product that we produce. Now, the vision statement is another thing, and I always look at this and I say, you know, if the mission is what we do, the vision is why we do it. And I also simplify that down to provide multimodal and transportation choices. We are the Highway Division, and I think for a long time we have been really focused on the primary user of the highways, which are cars and trucks. But also that's something that we really work to focus on and really try to understand the other users. When we're building park and rides, when can we build the public transit facilities? When we're rebuilding downtowns or paving through downtowns, how can we get a complete street type of approach? We're not perfect, but I do think we're getting better. And certainly what we do is important to the quality of life and the economy. And, you know, these are the things that we're really focused on, and hopefully you will catch this theme as you hear the rest of the presentations today. And certainly as you hear testimony through the rest of the session, I hope that these themes come through for all of you. So with that, I'm going to turn this over to Kevin, who's got the next section of testimony.
We have a question up there. Yep.
Yep. A statement more than anything. Mr. Simmons, thank you for the mission statement. I feel strongly that government should be in the customer service business, and it should figure out how can we best serve the total population inclusively. So I feel the same as what your department feels, and thank you.
Thank you.
Okay.
Okay. Good morning. My name is Kevin Marshy. For the record, my name is Kevin Marshy, the Bureau Director of the Asset Management Bureau, as Wayne mentioned earlier. Today, I wanted to talk to you a little bit about our mission and kind of the overall picture of what we see as asset management here at B-Trans. This slide is pretty important. It's kind of the core of what we do in terms of asset management. The right investment, the right asset at the right time. A little further on in some slides, I'm going to give you some data and information in terms of the number of assets that we manage. And when we talk about the right investment on the right asset at the right time, we're talking about a lot of things that Director Simmons mentioned in terms of the efficiency and the focus that we have looking at risk management, weighing our options, and how we actually invest in the network. A little bit of who we are. The Asset Management Bureau is made up of 33 professionals, engineers, technicians, and an interesting piece is the GIS professionals. And that gets to what I talk about a little bit further down, which is what do we do? And one of the big pieces that we do is we manage data. There is a tremendous amount of data that comes in. And, in recent years, the ability for us to work in the GIS platform, use that tool to strengthen the way that we put the message out there. The customer service component, at some point, if you haven't already, you'll see and hear about vTransparency, which is really all database and GIS-based information that we're serving out to our customers. I won't go through each and every one of these, but a big piece of what we do is inspect bridges. There's over 4,000 out there on the network. A critical component of what we do is the annual inspection of those bridges and the elements associated with those bridges, looking at all of the details that you might think about or may not think about associated with bridges, not just the decks and the abutments, but the bearings and the bolts on the railings and all of those pieces. Another key piece of what we do in asset management is we create and then manage the budgets. We're responsible within the highway division of pulling together all the budgeting information that you're going to see presented to you in the coming weeks in terms of the agency's fiscal year 22 budget. We work with our partners throughout the division. My colleagues that are going to present after me today, we pull all of that information together to have kind of a unified balanced budget that we propose, working with the CFO as well. I've already mentioned risk and performance, a lot of components there that we do, and I'll get into that in a couple of slides as well. And maybe the last point I'll use off this slide is we're partners in all stages of an asset life cycle.
Okay.
Next slide, please. So this, when I talk about the asset life cycle, and it's, we're up first in terms of the presentations today, because a lot of what we do builds off the work of the upcoming presentations. And, you're going to hear from Rob on the design side, and you're going to hear from Nick today on the construction side, and you're going to hear from Todd Law on the maintenance side. This slide just pulls it together, and whether you're, in the photos and the graphics on this, it's culverts. We do a lot of work in inventorying culverts. You'll see in a moment, there's about 50,000 small culverts as an example out on the network that we manage. We're managing that 50,000 in asset management, that 50,000 number, the condition of that, looking at ways to invest in, as this example, small culverts. It then goes over to data design, ultimately to construction, and all of our assets spend the majority of their life out in maintenance. So here are some facts. I find them, it seems like every time I look at some of these numbers, I'm amazed at the number of some of these things that we have out there on the network. Obviously, our two major and most valuable assets that we manage out there are the over 3,200 miles of pavements on the interstate and state highway system. Over 4,000 structures. Those we're responsible on both the interstate, state, and town highway system. As I mentioned, 50,000 culverts. I know every time I think about it, who would have thought we have, just shy of 70,000 traffic signs out there, but they all have value. The 160 traffic signals around the network. 900 miles of guardrail always just kind of astonishes me when I think about it. We're talking about hundreds and hundreds of millions of dollars of just guardrail that we, the agency, manage on a day-to-day basis. Obviously, and Director Simmons mentioned things like park and rides and our bicycle, the modal components, 105 park and rides on the state municipal system. 890 miles. A few years back, we did an on-road bicycle facilities, bicycle corridor study where we worked with many partners, the regional planning commissions, interested groups such as Local Motion to come up with a on-road bicycle facility corridor priority map. We have about a third of the network, or 890 miles, a little over a third, I should say, is a high use or high priority bicycle corridor. And then we also have 111 rail trail bridges.
Senator Chittenden might want to visit every one of those 49,000 culverts. Okay, you may want to take them on a tour. Count every one. Okay.
I'd be more than happy. I can pick him up. We just both have to wear a mask.
Okay.
To do it. How many of those bridges are covered?
Oh, that is an excellent question. I'll have to get back to you. I'm not sure the number of covered bridges. Wayne, you may actually have a better handle on that one.
Yeah, so I believe that the number is just shy of 50 right now. But
Wow.
I'll get the number, and right now there's a few that are owned by DHP that are off system, and all the ones that are used today for a transportation system are municipally owned. But as Kevin noted, we do inspect those, and we do help them with projects as well.
And we'll certainly get back to you on that number.
Yeah, Senator Ingalls.
How many miles of interstate do we have?
There are 320 miles of interstate. We basically count it twice because it's actually
Right.
between northbound and southbound. So there's 640 miles of that 3,200 is what we manage on the interstate network.
Thank you.
Lot of facts there. It always amazes me when I see those figures, how much we have to maintain, and there's a lot.
Yeah, if you think about, and you mentioned it, Senator Mazza, the small culverts, 50,000 culverts. Our goal is to inspect all of those on a 5-year cycle. So we're inspecting about 10,000 of those annually. And that's a lot of trips up and down the slopes from our maintenance staff using iPads to look at the condition of them and assess them.
Yeah. Okay, go right ahead, Kevin. Thank you.
Next slide, please. This is just a little bit about, I won't read all the words on here, but generally speaking, asset management, back in the 90s, there was legislation passed that directed us to look at asset management and begin incorporating those principles into the way we did work. In the early 90s, our most mature management system that we've had for a number of years now is our pavement management system. In 2006, one of the things in establishing those asset management principles, we looked at the road to affordability, where we really shifted a focus to preservation and financial sustainability, and really setting more credible expectations for our customers in terms of when we would deliver our projects. In 2014, the asset management was established at the same time as the highway division was created. Our first transportation asset management plan, which is a requirement from the Federal Highway Administration. Our first one was in 2018. And then in 2019, we began the development of our asset management information system, or what we refer to as VAMIS, where what we're doing in that system is we're pulling all of the data, all of the information into one platform where we'll be able to not just analyze pavements and bridges, we'll be able to do some cross asset management, looking at the different funding levels. There's a significant financial component to that. And also within VAMIS, we're looking at kind of a maintenance component of it in terms of work orders and those types of things in partnering with our maintenance division. Current initiatives, the second one down is VAMIS. I just mentioned that. We do have our project selection and prioritization system, or VPSB2, that's been under development for a couple of years. We will be rolling that out to the regional planning commission partners on March 1st of this year in a pilot for our roadway traffic and safety programs. Corridor management is worth mentioning. Corridor management is where we're really looking at not just a paving project and not just paving within a paving project. We're really working with our other partners within the agency, also with regional planning commissions, and looking at what makes sense to include or not include within a project, where we're not just focused on pavement. We're looking at the culverts, we're looking at the guardrail, but we're taking a little bit deeper dive as to make sure we're aware of the issues within a corridor, and then making a conscious decision as to whether or not to include them in that. A few other things there. One thing I would mention is we are in this upcoming year modernizing our bridge inspection platform, going to more of a tablet based, which will save a lot of time out in the field and improve safety for our bridge inspectors. I mentioned preservation, and I think it's mentioned at least one other time, maybe a couple of other times in our presentations to you this morning. The definition that I've got up there, I kind of, improve or sustain the condition in a state of good repair. I kind of think of that owning an old barn and an old farmhouse. That's sometimes preservation is like painting the barn roof. You do what you need to do to keep the water out, especially when we're talking about pavements or bridges, before it becomes so problematic that you have to invest more in it. A couple of examples, we've used them for a number of years, but it rings true still today. An investment of $100,000 in a culvert, maybe a culvert liner today, will preserve the life of that culvert and may save us $1 million over time in terms of replacement costs if we're able to preserve it. And that goes for whether it's a bridge, bridge membrane, culvert, and in a lot of cases pavements as well. The next two slides, I think you may have seen them in Secretary Flynn's presentation, but just, again, just to highlight, these are things that we're looking at, and this is the data and the information. And this is, you see these curves headed in the right direction. There's a lot of factors associated with that. Certainly one is the increased funding and support that we've gotten from the legislature over the years. But another part of that is preservation and looking at how we're managing the asset in a corridor management kind of mindset. And so this slide here is for bridges. The next one is for pavements. And you'll see the good news is, generally speaking, over the last 10 years, our trends are certainly headed in the right direction, and we look to keep them there. And then just the future. And I mentioned it, VAMIS, we're really looking at being able to integrate the management of the assets across the life cycles and across the various assets in a corridor management approach. The optimized investment, that kind of goes hand in hand with what I just said. The corridor management component is huge, and it is looking at, pick a corridor in your district, where we have a project. It may be an 8 or 10 mile paving project. Just yesterday, I had a conversation with the Agency of Natural Resources, and it fits into corridor management, understanding what the issues they have that might be touching the transportation network along that corridor, and how we can work together, plan for the future, in some cases implement as part of the project solutions that will make that corridor stronger and more resilient for all. Another piece of the future is really, as we move forward, and we've done a very good job in recent years, and that trend's going to continue, emergent needs or emergency repairs, having that data and that information in a system where we're able to project deterioration curves, potential failures, and get to them before they become emergencies is extremely important. And one of the important pieces of that is even just the impact that has on the traveling public when we have an emergency and we have to close a facility for a period of time. And then, of course, just the greater return on investment in the network. So that was a fair amount. I tried to get through it quickly. Certainly happy to take any questions now or at any other time.
Questions while they're fresh in your mind right now for Kevin? No? Russ, Senator Ingalls, anything? No? Jane?
Excellent.
Did a good job, Kevin, like always.
Yeah, thank you.
A little beard this year, huh?
Yeah, just a little bit. It's getting a little gray, Senator. Thank you for your time this morning.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Appreciate it. Okay, next.
Rob White, perhaps?
Are you muted?
Nope, I'm all set, I think. Good morning, Senators. My name is Robert White. I'm the Project Delivery Bureau Director. Some of you may recall that I was the right-of-way chief for many years, I think 12 plus years. So that's probably where you remember me from. Next slide, please.
One nice thing about AOT is you folks all come back, and that's nice to keep that, keep us all familiar with you. And you got a good crew there. Thank you.
Thank you. Appreciate that. So here's the organizational chart for Project Delivery Bureau. One thing I want to focus your attention on here is the contact information. I was glad that Wayne mentioned a customer service and actually talking to some of the people right out there that have some concerns or questions. whatever they may be. So anytime we're willing to, talk through some of those questions people may have, but the contact information, both telephone and email, are there. I want to start with the program to your left, municipal assistance. It was mentioned earlier that that was its own bureau, and with the retirement of Sue Scribner, that came under Project Delivery Bureau. That adds a lot of value to our group, both for the staff in municipal assistance and the other programs. And it's important to me because I spent quite a portion of my career actually working in that section as well. So I have a passion for what they do and working with the municipalities to navigate the federal and state funding that they can use for transportation projects. To the right of there, we have the Highway Safety and Design program that's overseen by Jesse Devlin. Next to the right is the Structures and Hydraulics program overseen by Kristen Higgins. And you'll be hearing from these program managers in the weeks to come. They'll be talking about not only their budgets, but also what their programs do. They're very passionate about what they do. And then on the other end, one of the other small changes that happened in Project Delivery over the last year or so was we actually combined the right-of-way and environmental sections together. They were sort of separate divisions, and Andrea Wright oversees that program. And I'll dig in a little deeper to these as we go. So here's the Highway Safety and Design Group. It's roughly 29 employees, and their main focus is the paving projects that you may see going on out there, roadway reconstruction. They do some intersection improvement jobs. We've had a lot of slope and ledge stabilization projects that have come up recently. You may have seen some of those on the interstate, and they do all the design work for the small culvert replacements. These are the culverts that are less than 6 foot diameter. Next slide, please. Next, we have the structures program, 42 employees in that group, focused on state, town highway bridges, interstate bridges, large culverts. These are the culverts that are greater than a 6 foot diameter. This program also has the hydraulic design group in their program, which not only provides a service to us while we're in the design phase of our projects, but in many cases, they work closely with municipalities when they have issues, design issues with infrastructure for drainage, whether it would be culverts, catch basins, or those types of things. So they work really closely with the municipalities as well. Next slide, please. As I mentioned earlier, I came from right-of-way. I worked there for quite a long time. It's one of my passions. But here we have the right-of-way and environmental group. 55 employees, quite a diverse group of professionals here. This first piece here really shows the environmental span of what they're doing. They're dealing with impacts to wetlands, wildlife habitat. They do our permitting, Act 250, some landscape architecture work. We're looking at people here that are archaeologists. They are biologists. They are people that have an expertise in federal and state permitting, and they really help navigate these projects, which are, generally design projects, but we have to get through either acquisitions of right-of-way or permitting for any impacts that we have on the environment. Next slide, please. This piece here is really a continuation of that program and really is focused on sort of the right-of-way side of the house for this program. Geodetic route survey, we've done a lot, and one of the big projects we rolled out recently was our parcel mapping project. We literally mapped every parcel in the state of Vermont, which aids us in actually communicating with property owners if there's impacts, whether they're temporary or permanent with our projects. We also have some plans and titles folks here. These are folks that might do title searches in the land records, legal documents. We have some appraisers that are on staff, negotiators. And one thing that I think people forget about, which is quite a large impact for us, is utilities that may be within the highway right-of-way corridors, which we may have to relocate on occasion. Next slide, thank you. And then finally here we have the municipal assistance program, 16 employees. They work very closely with municipalities on municipally managed projects, some of them very large and some of them quite small. We have Bike and Ped program is run through here, Better Back Roads, grants and aids. We have some town highway projects. And then one of the programs, Park and Rides, that are managed internally by us, but we do have some municipal park and rides that we help the municipalities deal with as well. Next slide, please. So I know some of the projects were mentioned earlier by Secretary Flynn. Just want to highlight a few interesting points about some of these projects. In the upper left-hand corner, of course, that's the Middlebury Rail Tunnel project. Really, a project like this doesn't come to into Vermont, but maybe in 10 or 20 years. Very complicated, a lot of behind-the-scenes work, a lot of work with property owners that are directly impacted, but indirectly impacted. But the interesting thing here is right in the middle of their downtown, a lot of work with the community on this. And just as a note, there was a daycare that visited that site almost daily. And those children were given sort of an honorary safety vest so that they felt like they were a part of the project. And you know, just nice to see how the community embraced this project. A disruption for 2 or 3 years, but quite honestly, something that they're going to cherish for decades to come. Beautiful down there, just amazing how that came out. Down in the bottom middle here is the Route 7 project, corridor project in Pittsford. Quite a long project spanning from Pittsford to Brandon up through that section. Something we've been working on for a long time. We're really glad we're starting to roll some of those projects out. And that project came out of the Highway Safety and Design program. And then the last project here up in the upper right-hand corner, that's the Waterbury Main Street project. Again, a huge impact to that downtown, something that has been needed for quite some time. Going to have a couple of years of disturbance. That's going to disrupt the community there, but something that's going to be beautiful and something the community can enjoy for decades to come. Another project that came out of the Highway Safety and Design group. Happy to entertain questions if there are any.
Right ahead. Questions, anyone?
Just all the projects that were shown to us, especially that Middlebury project, man, what a piece of work. That's pretty cool to see. The one project that I would have question on, and not to second guess anyone, just a curiosity of my own. It's actually in Senator Kitchell's district. It's part of Route 2 where 2 bridges were replaced, but it looked to be like a 2-year project, but it seemed like a very good stretch of road. And for whatever reason, it was moved over 1 lane to accommodate that. And it looked to be about a mile-long project. I was just curious of what the reasoning would have been to move the road over just the 1 lane on that whole mile stretch. And I understand that we only have the time that we have, but I would love just an explanation of that at some point in time so I could better understand some of your projects, and it doesn't have to be right now.
Okay, just a little more information about the location. What town?
It's just south of Danville. South of Danville on Route 2, headed towards Marshfield, Plainfield, in that direction right there. It's about a mile-long project. 2 bridges were replaced, and the road was moved over just 1 lane width of that whole section. And just curious, that's all.
Okay, I'd be happy to pull together some information and bring that to you.
I think that's the section that was held up by 20 years in the Act 250 wetlands, and that may have had an impact on the design as well.
It might be in the town of Cabot.
It is Cabot, yeah.
Yep.
Any further questions on this section so far? Okay, go right ahead.
Thank you, Senators.
Thank you.
Nick, you're up.
I'm here. Hello. Can everybody hear me?
Yep.
Very well. Thank you for the opportunity to present on behalf of Malott and Gagulak today for the Construction and Materials Bureau. My name is Nick Vandenberg. I lead our materials testing and certification section within the Bureau. Next slide. So I'll start with the construction section. So essentially their charge is to provide construction oversight for the projects that the agency puts out. You see here there's some sort of rough numbers on the number of projects we administer each year, the different types, quite a variety of different types of projects, and not only different types of construction, but also several different contracting methods, design bid build, design build, and others. And annually, the section makes on the order of $200 million in contractor payments. And with regard specifically to construction oversight, so there's really a few key points there. One is that, their charge is to ensure the quality of the work being completed, which means, ensuring that the design intent is met, its quality workmanship and materials, and, essentially that we're getting an asset that is, valuable for the money that's being spent on it. In addition, they're responsible to also ensure that all of our regulatory requirements are met. So whether that's VOSHA or environmental permitting requirements, also meeting all of our obligations under the stewardship agreement as required by the Federal Highway Administration. And lastly, is an important one. The folks out in the field, in a lot of ways, they sort of become the face of the project for the agency, at least during that time that it's in construction. So, those construction field staff, they're often fielding the concerns from adjacent landowners, business interests, as well as just the traveling public. Next. There we go. So, of course, they don't do all this work alone. We maintain a number of key partnerships, as noted here, the AGC, Northern New England Concrete Association, ACEC, among others. The resources we use to complete the work, there's about 70 full-time employees in the construction section. And typically we bring on 5 to 10 temporary employees. And then that last figure is perhaps a startling one, but we our ranks swell in the construction season. We bring on quite a few engineering consultants to help administer the many projects that the agency puts out. And one last point here, just on the partnerships, I can say certainly from my own experience that we're very fortunate here in Vermont to have regional contractors and material producers that are very much willing to come, sit at the table with us and work through, sort of common issues and reach resolution. So that's been, I guess, one of the highlights of my work here. So onto the material section. So the section that I lead, our primary responsibility is to ensure that we're only using quality materials on our construction projects. And we conduct a number of different material tests on materials that are sampled from job sites, and we perform those here at our AASHTO accredited laboratory in Berlin. We also maintain the agency's quality assurance program, which is essentially the agency's response to 23 CFR 637, which places that requirement on the state. We also maintain an independent assurance program, and essentially their charge is to provide an unbiased opinion of how is our acceptance program doing? Are we meeting all of the federal requirements? And are we providing an unbiased analysis of those materials that we are testing. And in one other point to make here, just in regard to our work with our regional producers and contractors, in May of 2020, we worked with our producers and regional contractors to make some modifications to the agency's quality assurance program to accommodate, the ongoing pandemic situation. And we did that, in partnership with all of them to ensure the safety of our staff and their staff, as well as our consulting partners. And we utilized a number of different techniques to modify the quality assurance program and to change the work that we were doing, including using some remote inspection techniques, also implementing some various methods of paperless ticketing technologies, and also just modifying some of our material sampling procedures. So just some sort of highlight statistics here. In 2020, we tested materials representing over 350,000 tons of hot mix asphalt. Within that, we utilized over 56,000 tons of recycled asphalt pavement. And through our precast concrete fabrication inspection program, we inspected 1,300 pieces of precast concrete, which is fabricated at various facilities throughout the region. And one other point to make here, as you can see in a couple of the photos there, some of our lab technicians, just want to note that they performed all of our mission essential testing activities throughout 2020, in accordance with all of the agency's return to work policy. So my hat's off to them.
How do you test asphalt when you, is it one load at a time, or they do it once a day from a mix plant, or?
So we have a variety of sampling methods that we employ depending on the type of mix, what part of the project it's being utilized on. Essentially, it's a risk-based approach. So if it's something that is, say for instance, a wearing course on the interstate, we would be sampling that more frequently. Whereas if it's, if we're paving, driveway aprons or something of that sort, the loads aren't the same, it's not subjected to the same stresses. Therefore, we may have a lesser sampling frequency.
Okay, thank you.
So last slide here on materials, just a little bit of a look of kind of where we're headed. What are some of our initiatives that we're undertaking? So we have been for a number of years now endeavoring to implement performance-related specifications and test methods. And there's a few of them noted here, including the Hamburg wheel tester and a couple of different cracking tests that we're using to analyze asphalt. And really, the reason why we are pursuing performance-related specifications is essentially it allows the agency to set specification target that has been correlated to the long-term performance that we could expect from a material that meets those targets. And the other benefit of it, and this really, is for the contractors and material producers, is that it allows those folks to basically use their experience and their expertise to optimize those materials to, maximize basically what they can get for performance and economy, and also the sustainability of those materials. Right, so next up is our geotechnical section, which is led by Callie Ewald. So the geotechnical section basically is a resources group, and they serve structures, highway safety and design, and rail, as well as the maintenance bureau. And they maintain a number of programs. One that they recently established is our approved aggregate source program. And that was established in the last 2 years. And basically it's a mechanism that we've put in place to allow contractors and materials aggregate source owners to submit, either they submit an aggregate sample or they can submit third-party test results. And we analyze those, and then it allows us to basically approve those sources ahead of time so they can be used on construction projects. And basically is just another tool to allow us to ensure that we're only including quality materials on our projects. But it does it at a systematic level with that program, which is helpful really for a lot of the contractors and material producers. And one other highlight here is the agency's rock slope program, which includes an inventory of all of the rock slopes adjacent to highways and establishes a rating system in which each slope is assessed for its potential hazard to the traveling public. And this inventory is updated on a set frequency, and it's used to help program rock slope rock slope projects, and therefore, allows us to mitigate the risk involved with these aging and higher risk slopes. So just a couple other examples here of what the geotechnical section provides for the agency. They do get involved in a number of emergency response scenarios, such as those pictured here. So on the left is a photo from I-89 northbound in Sharon, which was from early 2020. That was a rock slope that was ranked an A on our rockfall hazard rating system, which was essentially the second highest hazard level for a rock slope in terms of its likelihood for rock to reach the roadway. And our geologists from the geotechnical section helped perform on-site assessment and worked with the district forces to clean up the area. And on the right is a photo of a void that showed up under I-89 northbound in Georgia in the spring of 2020. And our geotechnical section provided borings on that response to help identify the presence of additional voids under the roadway, as well as performing monitoring and subsequent non-destructive investigation. And ultimately, this resulted in a culvert lining project, including compaction grouting, and involved some interstate lane closures. So this slide sort of touches on where some of the initiatives that the geotechnical section is undertaking. So this A-GAME, as it's called, is a group of geophysical technologies that are currently being focused on and encouraged for use by our federal highway partners. So it involves 5 different technologies within that group. And thus far, our agency has successfully used 3 of them on several different projects. So those 3 are ground penetrating radar, seismic refraction, and cone penetration testing. And those are all tools that help identify voids or utilities, bedrock, or unsuitable soils under the ground surface. And these technologies have been in existence for a long time, but they're becoming more mainstream in the engineering, in the geotechnical engineering world. And it helps supplement some of our traditional subsurface boring investigations. And our group purchased a small GPR unit recently to assist with some smaller investigations. And when we use our consulting partners to help when we need to bring in specialists or other equipment or to do specialty work that we can't perform ourselves. Okay, last but not least is our e-construction section, which is led by Molly Perigo. So this section was established in around 2018, and it's sort of a continuation of the agency's e-construction efforts that have been ongoing for a while, but were initially supported in part by the Federal Highway Everyday Counts program, which dated back to it was EDC 4, I believe, which was back in 2014 and 15. So a couple examples of what they've been implementing. So our field staff, construction field staff, have been utilizing a variety of different new software applications, one of them being Bluebeam, which is an app that allows them to, it basically facilitates electronic data collection and transmission. Also, those field staff, they all have iPhones and iPads, which basically, helps with ease of communication, but also it allows them to use some of these new applications, such as Bluebeam, and it allows them to use these applications right on the job site, as opposed to having to return to a field office. And we've implemented some workflow automation tools. The primary one being Dock Express, which was initially funded by the State Transportation Innovation Council program back in 2015. And at this point, we use that to manage the document workflow for all of the construction projects that are administered by our bureau. And another example is the Appian program, which also was implemented initially with federal grant funding. And last on this list is just a quick mention on e-signature. That certainly isn't, that technology isn't unique to our bureau or agency, but our e-construction unit helps support our bureau in maximizing our use of those and our adoption and implementation of those various programs, including e-sign. So in 2020, some of the highlights here for the e-construction section. Continue to assess and evaluate new tools and look into new innovations or technologies that we can implement. And the last bullet there, I'll touch on here in the next slide, but the sort of their biggest project ongoing and will be for several more years is our construction management system. But some of the future innovations that they're also looking at include implementing building information modeling, 3D modeling to allow for fully integrated construction projects. In other words, that can be built without paper plans. And also they're looking towards ways to integrate with the VAMIS system, or Vermont Asset Management Information System. So some of the other sort of near-term innovations that we have been exploring include e-ticketing, which is basically it provides for a safer and more efficient transmission of truck ticket information for those that are hauling asphalt, concrete, and unbound aggregates. We executed 2 trial projects in 2020, and we expect to execute at least 2 more of those this year. In addition, we are expecting this year to perform a trial using RFID tags, which are radio frequency identification tags. And our trial project is actually to use those tags to identify material samples that are collected on the job sites. So basically that technology would allow us to replace paper sample cards, which has a number of benefits, including eliminating duplication of data entry, and it also provides some surety of the sample custody and location. And that project was awarded through Federal Highway EDC 6 program. All right, and last is, again, regarding the construction management system project. It's a couple of sort of major dates there anticipated in the deployment schedule. I don't have a lot of details to share on that, but I understand there is another much more detailed presentation that has been put together as part of the AOT IT projects testimony. And I neglected to exclude a question slide, but I'm happy to answer any questions.
Any questions this morning?
I have one, Senator Mazza.
Yes, Senator Chittenden.
On slide 32, and I apologize in advance if this is a terribly naive question, but in your criteria for evaluating asphalt, as we all acknowledge that sooner or later we're going to have a lot more self-driving cars, is reflectivity or content, the paint markings, which I understand automated vehicles are so dependent upon for safety measures, is how well they retain the paint markings on the road a part of your planned criteria, or is that not even to be a factor in how you evaluate asphalt that we're putting down on all of our roadways?
Thank you for that question, Senator. So we do testing on, we do retroreflectivity testing on a lot of our pavement markings. And I know there's also a pavement marking committee that the agency maintains, and they are very much involved in updating the various specifications and testing and acceptance protocols for the different pavement markings. I'm not a member of that committee, unfortunately, to know specifically the items that they're considering, but I'm certain, and probably Josh Schultz may have some more information on how that may specifically relate to self-driving cars. But it is definitely incorporated as part of our quality assurance program and the acceptance program.
Certain you guys was on your radar, but thank you for assuring me of that.
Of course.
Any questions, comments?
Yes, Senator Mazza.
Yes, Senator Perchik.
On the materials that you test, it's the blacktop, the asphalt, and the concrete. Is there anything else that you're testing that I'm forgetting about? Is one quick question.
Thank you, Senator. That's a great question. I did keep the focus a little bit narrow in the presentation, but yeah, we do test quite a variety of materials, including structural bolts, anchor bolts, cements, pozzolans, grouts. I mean, the list goes on and on. We test the performance graded binder, which is the black sticky stuff that we use to make the asphalt, as well as a variety of tests on the aggregates and the other constituent ingredients. So yeah, quite a variety, but I can certainly provide a comprehensive.
No. I don't need a list. I just wanted to make sure. And is the R&D division part of your shop there? Like, 'cause I remember hearing before where people are doing kind of R&D on future materials, like can we mix in recycled glass and those kind of questions. Where is that done? So I don't know if I'm the best to answer that question, but I can answer it from my perspective.
So we do have the research section, which is in our policy planning and intermodal development division.
Okay.
But within materials, we do conduct a number of sort of, I would say, lower level, sort of local to us type of research efforts. But we also participate in some larger regional efforts. In fact, tomorrow morning, I have a meeting with our concrete producers to help steer the research that UVM will be doing for us on basically optimizing some concrete designs.
Okay. And the last question is, are you establishing goals for the materials? Like you showed the test of the chlorine intrusion for the concrete, and I wondered if you're letting the industry kind of know, it's like, today we're here at X, but we want to get to Y. Are we constantly improving these materials as far as our, what we're telling the industry we want to see in the future?
Yep, that's a great question. And we do partner, we hold a lot of partnering meetings with our material producers. As noted, I was in one yesterday with our hot mix folks, and I'm in one tomorrow with our concrete folks. But specifically to your question about setting targets, we do set the targets, and typically we're going to lean on sort of if there's a national performance standard like an AASHTO or an ASTM material standard performance standard that we would typically want to point to those. But within our specifications, we do, I guess in short, I would say we don't go anywhere without industry on board. So we do partner extensively with our material producers and contractors to make sure that the specifications we're setting, at least from the materials perspective, because that's what I really know, that those targets are achievable and that they will, help the agency continue to meet our goals of, maintaining an efficient transportation system.
Okay. And I assume we work regionally and nationally, like you said, on the standards so that we're getting better materials, specifically with the impact of salts. If we can make better materials, then the whole erosion of the concrete because of salt issue can be better.
Yes, and that certainly is an area of focus. It has been for a while within materials, and we partner with our federal highway partners, on the technical aspect as well, not just sort of meeting the regulatory requirements, but that is definitely an area of focus for us.
Okay, thank you.
Anybody else? Well, thank you very much. Appreciate it. Okay, we want to move on to next.
Good morning. My name's Todd Law. I'm the director of the Maintenance Bureau. Thank you for having us. I look forward to speaking with you about the Maintenance Bureau and the services that we provide to our customers.
Good morning, Todd.
Good morning, Senator.
All right, go right ahead.
Thank you. So this is an organizational chart of the Maintenance Bureau. You're probably familiar with the former Maintenance and Operations Bureau, and a couple years ago, we split the operations portion out of maintenance. So now it's just the Maintenance Bureau, and we have the Operations and Safety Bureau, which is its own bureau. With that, majority of the employees that are within the Maintenance Bureau are district maintenance workers, and the people who are out in the districts or the regions that are performing all the maintenance on the assets that are out there. But we also have, even though it's hidden within Shane Moran's name, the Technical Services section of Maintenance Bureau, which has our own GIS personnel, the Pollution Prevention and Compliance section. Daniel Peterson is actually a part-time employee, a temporary employee who does a lot with our federal emergency and disaster responses. So making sure that FEMA and federal highways are on board with any of the disasters and ensuring that our paperwork is up to par so we can receive reimbursement. And then we have our own bridge maintenance section within headquarters that does a lot of designs of some of the more sophisticated repairs that maintenance would do, or smaller repairs to these assets, whether it be culverts or bridges throughout the system that doesn't quite raise to the full-blown project that our Project Delivery Bureau would perform. And then we have our Special Projects Group that does a lot of interagency and interdivisional work. So they work a lot with the rail and aviation groups because there's a lot of work that maintenance performs for those two groups, specifically on items that we have the resources to do, whether it be some pavement patching, snow removal assistance, repair of some of the structures that are within rail and aviation, including some of the rail crossings. So we're a fairly diverse group, but again, a majority of our employees are focused on maintenance work and all that we perform throughout the year, which includes winter maintenance, the biggest portion of what we do. So of course, the Agency of Transportation has a significant public investment in the transportation infrastructure. One of the things that we're really focusing on is asset management and ensuring that we're providing for a lot of those activities that elongate the life expectancy of our assets. And we work with a lot of the other bureaus, whether it be construction materials to figure out what they put in the assets, and asset management to make sure that we're working with them, that we're putting the right money and the right resources to those assets at the right time. So our workforce is very dedicated, hardworking, and proud of what they do, which I think leads to that life expectancy extension. So of course, the maintenance districts is the biggest portion of the Maintenance Bureau. We have 8 districts across the state. We also call them regions. Each region has their own district transportation administrator that oversees the entire region. But they do a variety of activities, from winter maintenance, pothole patching, tree cutting, and then we provide a lot of technical assistance. So during emergency events, our technical staff really steps up, provides a lot of assistance, damage assessments, et cetera, to our own infrastructure and also to municipalities. So while these damages are occurring during these emergency events, our technical staff will go out into the regions working with the municipalities, the regional planning commissions, to ensure that we're capturing all the damage that occurs on all of the infrastructure within the state, whether it be state assets or municipal assets. And that teamwork has worked very well across the many emergencies that we've had in the past. And our technical staff also provides additional oversight and assistance to municipalities, whether it be some of the smaller hydraulic analysis on culverts, repairs to roadway sections. They give a lot of technical assistance to them. So as I said, we have a regional approach, or regional management leadership of the Maintenance Bureau. The first section is the Southwest section. If you could click, please. The Southwest region is overseen by Robert Faley. He's the District Transportation Administrator. There's his contact information. So anything that happens in District 1 and 3 is referred to as the Southwest region. Rob works with his staff in that area on any issues that would be maintenance and repair through that area. So if anything happens from Rutland, Bennington, those areas, from the Massachusetts border and New York all the way up to just above Brandon, Rob would be the one to contact for any of that, or of course myself. So the next section would be the Southeast region, and that's Joseph Russo, who is the District Transportation Administrator in the Southeast, and that's Brattleboro and White River Junction. District 4 goes all the way up to Williamstown, so almost to Barrie, and all the way over to Thetford and down, of course, to the Massachusetts border and the border with New Hampshire. Next section is the Northwest region, and that's District 5 and 8, and that's Colchester and St. Albans. And the District Transportation Administrator in that area is David Blackmore, and his contact information. The last region is the Northeast region, and the DTA in that area is Kevin Gatapy, and he oversees District 7 and 9. District 7 is St. Johnsbury, and District 9 is up in Derby. So he goes from the Canadian border on the eastern side of the state all the way down to Fairleigh in that area. So not to be left out, we have our maintenance engineer. If you can click on that, it's Shane Morin. He oversees the technical services group, which includes our bridge maintenance and technical assistance there. He also oversees a lot of the emergency response. And then last, but hopefully certainly not least, me as the director. So anytime there's any questions, whether there's an issue across the state, I can always be the first point of contact. And if someone has more information, we can definitely go from there. So that's our leadership across the Maintenance Bureau. So we talked a little bit about technical services and through the org chart, bridge maintenance, pollution prevention and compliance, GIS or geographic information systems, emergency recovery programs, and special projects are all under technical services. So our bridge maintenance group does a lot on bridges, but also large culverts. They provide guidance and assistance to towns as well as our own district staff on structures that they are responsible to maintain. And as Kevin Marshy said, we do work with municipalities quite a bit on repairs and maintenance to a lot of their infrastructure. Pollution prevention and compliance, it provides a lot of administration over our environmental regulations on a lot of our activities that we perform in the Maintenance Bureau, including stormwater and all the detention basins and inspections of those. It's got a hazardous materials section, so they deal with any of the spills, etc., and then hazardous waste. So we have our own, or some of our own, fuel tanks, etc., and those have to be overseen by somebody who is knowledgeable about hazardous waste removal and materials. And then our vegetation management to make sure that we're, again, meeting the environmental regulations throughout those. And then we have our own GIS section that does more maintenance oriented information systems. So as Kevin said, our maintenance workers go out and do a lot of the inspections of our culverts, our small culverts. So Kevin offered, I definitely also offer, if anybody wants to come around, it's a really good workout to walk up and down those slopes to do the inspections, but it's very, very valuable to what we have. It's one of our unseen assets that we need to make sure that we keep on top of. So we have our own GIS staff that looks at that data and highlights a lot of the issues before they become problems. So we can do those repairs before they fail and possibly cause significant issues with moving our customers across our infrastructure. So special projects provides assistance to our districts and other agency groups, like I said, including rail and aviation. They're kind of the liaison between those groups and us. They do a lot of the legwork and actually some of the heavier lifting on some of the specialty projects that a lot of the other agency groups need. And then we have hopefully something that we don't need a lot. It's not a full-time position for anybody, but the emergency response and recovery programs. And again, we work with both state and municipal highway groups, federal highway emergency response and FEMA public assistance, depending on the damage and what roadway it occurred with, will give which group we're working with. And then a lot of the indefinite delivery, indefinite quantity, and job order contract projects. Some of the smaller projects that we look with are bridge maintenance projects and small culvert repair and lining, and some of our light paving and leveling projects across the state that aren't full-blown projects, but are really needed for number one, the traveling public's ease of travel, but also to make sure that we extend the life cycle of these important assets. And then we have the performance management programs. And again, we look at a lot of our geospatial information and our activities and make sure that we're providing for the cyclical maintenance that's required of those assets. Next slide, please. Thank you. So again, a little more of what we do. So significant activities are performed first and foremost. It's occurring as not as we speak, but this time of the year, winter maintenance. That's about a third of our allotment. Our budgeted money that we spend is on winter maintenance and making sure that we provide for the safe and efficient movement of our our customers across our infrastructure. Emergency response and mitigation, another big one. Should it happen, our maintenance workers go out and try to get our roads back up. But again, we provide a lot of oversight and technical assistance to municipalities that they may not get otherwise. And then of course, some of the aesthetic stuff, picking litter. We see a lot of trash across the states and state highways. And green up is a wonderful thing, but we try to keep people off the interstates because of the hazards. And we do a fair amount of litter picking. 300 to 400 tons a year. That costs about $1 million to pick and get rid of. But something that makes our state look much better. And then some of the more important functions, sweeping, which is important for our runoff and making sure that our water gets off the road so it doesn't cause any issues there, but also for the multimodal piece of sweeping to make sure that we have bicycle lanes and pedestrian lanes that don't have debris on them. So something we start normally just after winter ends and the snow's receded, and we can get out there and remove the debris and all the other stuff from the side of the road for those multimodal facilities. And then mowing. Mowing's important for many reasons. Mowing removes a lot of the vegetation that normally would hide animals that could get struck by the traveling public. So another one, pothole patching, ditching, some of the things that we do to make sure that we extend the life cycle of our infrastructure. Sign installation, bridge washing is one of the ones that we do a lot of, again, to make sure we get those salts off the bridges, and we can do some of our repairs and maintenance, our cyclical maintenance of providing for some of the coatings we put on our bridges to help preserve them from some of that corrosion from the salts, etc. And then guardrail repair, another big safety item. So as you look around, these are some of the people that are out doing the work. We also were out putting up a lot of the COVID signs across the state, telling people that they needed to quarantine for the safety of everybody around here. And then, of course, the technical assistance to the towns. We do pride ourselves on that, and it's great to have our district staff be involved with that because many of them are local. They live in the same communities. They're familiar, and the municipalities are comfortable with them, and they can get right out to wherever the problem is and meet with the municipalities and provide assistance to them, whether it's culvert repairs, ditching, etc., to give best practices. Next slide, please.
Todd, before you move on, we don't do any mowing. We subcontract to someone else, right?
A majority of our work, you're right, is subcontracted. We do still have some mowers across the state. We did move away from that a few years ago. Last year, when we had the reduction in revenues, we were actually out with our mowers, and we realized that we had given up on them a long time ago because we had moved to the contractors, and we did a lot more mowing this last year. But there's certain areas that we do with smaller tractors. But yes, you're right, we do a lot with contractors throughout the state.
Yeah. Okay, go ahead.
So you probably saw this slide before. This is our running cost for 2021 for our winter maintenance. It's our dashboard that we use to see where we are compared to last year and our 5-year average. And these things are extremely helpful for myself, the executive staff, and our managers out in the field to see where we are and how we're coming in with our budgeting. And as you can see, our costs, are only up until January of this year, but this year is substantially less than the last year and the 5-year average. And again, this is one of the things that we've started working with the performance section that's in finance and admin. Has been providing a lot of these dashboards, which are extremely important to us to make sure that we're meeting the needs of the infrastructure, but to see what we're using for materials and how we're working with our budget. So as far as the Bureau, there's 452 employees throughout. And again, a majority of those are maintenance workers. And one of the key components obviously is winter maintenance. We have 274 dump trucks, which includes about 20 that are spares in case something breaks down, so we can have at least a few available until our CG staff can get out there and get things back on the road. And I think that's a testament again to the Central Garage, who's going to be speaking later, and just how great they are. 20 is not a lot of additional plow trucks out there, and it really is a testament to the skill, the preventative maintenance that occurs with our equipment. They take great care of the trucks that they lease to the Maintenance Bureau, and hopefully we can take care of them in turn, so that we can extend the life cycle of them and make sure that they're there when we need them. So 374 licensed CDL drivers. Doing quick math, as you can see, that's not a 2-to-1 ratio. So it's about 1.3 to 1.4 people or operators per truck. So majority of them work 16-hour days, and then we try to send them home. So a lot of times, and we talk about this in winter maintenance when we talk about that, but overnight we go into a reduced staffing for a few hours just to get people home to rest. And then we have 64 garages spread throughout the state to provide that maintenance. Next slide, thank you. So our bridge maintenance program, again, this is under our technical services group. They do a lot to preserve, maintain, and operate the bridge maintenance of what the maintenance workers do, but not quite to a full-blown project. So Kevin Marshy's asset management group and the bridge inspectors go out and they provide these findings that have repairs that are needed. And if they're above something that the district staff can do, then this bridge maintenance group comes in and does some designs and put things out to bid. And it really does take a very important need away from, or it fills a void that we previously hadn't had filled. And as you can see, they do a fair number of projects, especially with 2 designers and a couple people that go out and do the inspections of the projects. But 21 projects, $2 million in 18, 20 projects, almost $4 million in 19, and then 22 projects and $5.6 million in 2020. So we're getting a lot more efficient. We've actually engaged the district technical staff a little more, and having them go out and do some of the inspections to make sure we can be as efficient as we can on getting some of these very important projects done. Next slide, please. Temporary bridge, it's another piece of our bridge maintenance program. So and actually that Cabot project that was brought up previously, before the project was done, there was a temporary bridge that was in where there was a washout in the former bridge or culvert had failed. So we had a temporary bridge in there, but we have 13 temporary bridges across the state, whether it's damage because of an emergency event, sometimes an accident or a crash that may cause that, or just that something happened that was unexpected, that we need to make sure that we get something out there to make sure we complete our mission of moving people efficiently and effectively. This project that's in the picture to the right is actually the Richford temporary bridge that was put in as a result of that Halloween storm, the November 1st, 2019 storm. And it was put in fairly quickly, within a couple days, by the district staff. And we have a bunch of these systems put in place or stored across the state. 2 different types, Acro, which is down in the southern part of the state, and then the Maybe Bridge. They're very similar, a little bit different, but they're not interchangeable. So we keep them separated, but it actually is a great service for everybody out there on the system and gets people moving a lot quicker.
Talking about paving.
So again, some of our bigger projects from the last couple of years, as you can see, the Faced-In project, and some of the things that we really do, removal of the pavement, concrete deck repair, installing a membrane, and repaving. So a couple $100,000, and again, as Kevin said, it saves us millions of dollars if we let that go for longer. It'd be a full bridge replacement and wouldn't really get us where we need to be. And a lot of these other ones, lining of an existing culvert. We do a lot of these projects. Project Delivery does them. Some of them, when they can't get to them or they're smaller projects, our district staff would go out and do some of the inspections, work with our bridge maintenance staff to do the design and get these things installed, again, to make sure that we can continue to move people across the roadway that's on top of that. And some are replacement of some of the culverts with what we call a precast box, the one down in the right-hand corner, bottom right, Timoth. Precast concrete box looks a lot like a bridge, but three-sided box has a bottom, no bottom on it. So you put in material and it allows for movement of the aquatic species. And the same thing, some of these smaller projects, the District 5 project, through one of the bridge inspections, there was an issue with one of the joints. They shored it, reinforced it, and again, $450,000 project, which would have saved us from a multi-million-dollar project if that thing had gone on and there had been an imminent failure.
Are culverts different now than they were? Are we getting away from metal culverts and going to plastic, or the life expectancy greater, or something on the culverts, or no?
Some of our smaller culverts, yes, we've used a corrugated polyethylene pipe, which does have a lot of longevity benefits. But as you get into the bigger size, you have to move away from that and get into something more structural. That's why we go back to concrete or some of the heavier metals that, as you get deeper and deeper and have more stresses on them, the plastics just won't hold up to them. A lot of them do. But as you get into the larger sizes, we get back to the multi-plates that are metal and et cetera. But with doing more and more inspections, we've noticed that we can estimate what we're doing or how long they're going to last for us. And then we do a lot of liner projects like the one that I showed in the previous slide.
The other, slip one inside the other one, is that what happens? Yeah.
Yep. Exactly. So it preserves it. Those liners are typically polyethylene. So again, you get that. It's not as it's more corrosion resistant. We'll put it that way. So anything that comes down through there, though, even the waters may rust them out or corrode them. So the pollution prevention and compliance, again, under the technical services, is the water quality unit. They look at a lot of our stormwater treatment practices, so things that are put in as a result of some of the project delivery projects. We have to have stormwater treatment in a lot of those. So this group goes out and does the inspections, works with the districts on doing any repairs that's necessary, and reports out to the environmental conservation and lets them know as part of our permitting requirement that these things are in good shape. So we've done a lot of inspections in the last 4 or 5 years since the pollution prevention and compliance has grown, and as we have really been forced into doing a lot of these inspections every year through permit requirements. And again, I think in the long term it provides for clean water, which is one of our biggest emphases here. And then we have the hazmat group that's under there that, again, any spills, oversight of fuel tanks, hazardous sites that may pop up as a result of even construction projects. That group goes out there. The 2 people that are in that hazmat unit go out and oversee a lot of those hazmat containments, removals, etc. So any questions?
Open to questions. A lot of information there, but like I said, we'll be going through more of the details on some of your requests. But right today, is there any questions at this point? Yes, Senator Ingalls.
Just a comment. I just wanted to thank you as a former select board member when Shane Moran or the group of fellows that used to show up with their tablets and show you what your roads were, the knowledge that they had. And when you have a small town of less than 1,000 people and 80% of the budget is your road department, just very, very impressive and very, very helpful in trying to plan your budget and how to spend your money wisely. And the other is that I know that litter patrol is probably the least glamorous job of anybody's life, but I myself appreciate the effort that's put into it. It's a very, very great effort. It's very nice that you guys take that so seriously, and I appreciate it.
No, thank you. Yeah, no, we do take pride in working with the municipalities. And as a former public works director, I understand that relationship very, very well. I might have had a little more resources. I'm an engineer by trade, but still, the resources that the Agency of Transportation have are absolutely wonderful. You don't have to be the jack of all trades, and it's just amazing all the people that I work with now.
Well, I think it saves the town thousands of dollars in consultant fees, but better yet, it doesn't lead them in the wrong direction. You're working in partnership with the state so that if you did one big project and the state, could come in rightfully and say, well, hey, that's nice that you did that, but we really wish you would have done this instead. So not to spend dollars where it's not needed. You can direct them where it's at. So very, very helpful.
Excellent. Thank you.
Mr. Chair.
Senator Perchlik.
Mr. Lahr, can you give us an update on CDL drivers as far as, I know in the past there's been a real difficulty in hiring them. I just wondered if that is continuing, what the situation is there.
So we still have a few vacancies across the state. We have been very, very successful in hiring a lot of CDL drivers. We've hired people without CDLs. So we've been going through that. We have our own CDL training. We don't do the testing. Of course, we go through Department of Motor Vehicles for that, but we have been fairly successful. There has been a fair amount of turnover, especially this last, and it happens every year. We have some turnover, but yeah, we have been very successful. I think there's still 3 or 4 vacancies across the state, which is excellent. When we started with about almost 35 to 40 at the beginning of the winter season. So yeah, we're in a much better shape than we anticipated. So
Still a chance for you, Senator Perchlik, if you want a
Yeah,
job.
I want to get that CDL one of these days.
they can even teach an engineer to do that. I got my CDL, so.
Any other questions at this time? Like always, thank you very much. Great job, and appreciate it. Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, do we have someone next, or are we finished for this morning?
We have a couple of more speakers, Senator. So I
I'd
don't
like to
know
go
if
for
we're
about
going to.
15 minutes more because we have one member leaving. And so
Okay.
if we could go 15 minutes and then end it, that would be great.
Okay, and then we can either come back in the afternoon or another day to do the last one. So then Tammy, if you're up, let's do the central garage.
Tammy, you've been muted. You're muted. Tammy, you're still muted.
Oh, excuse me. I'm sorry about that. Good morning, everybody.
Morning.
I will be brief. Thank you. And so my name is Tammy Ellis. I'm superintendent of the Central Garage. And what I've put together is just a very brief overview, the key points of what it is that we do at the Central Garage. This is our one of our facilities, the one you're probably all most familiar with, located there in Berlin, right on Route 302.
Oh, a lot of fun equipment there. Gee, we could jump in those things, have a little good time,
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. So anyways, there's kind of 3 primary focus areas we have. And those are, first of all, our mission is tied very closely. This isn't really a formal mission statement, but it's tied very closely with what the agency's mission is. And so we see our role is to maintain a safe and reliable fleet of highway maintenance equipment that supports the agency's mission. And we try to do that in as efficient manner as possible. And thank you, Todd Law, for your compliments about our efforts to support you folks. And so our primary areas that we focus on are the procurement of the equipment, obviously. And then more importantly, we've heard a lot about asset management and life cycle costs. And our main focus of what we do day to day is just preserving those assets once we own them. We want to extend the life expectancy of the equipment because it is a major investment. I think the replacement cost of all of our equipment at this point is, you know, in excess of probably $40 million worth of equipment if we were to have to replace it all. And obviously we can't afford to do that. So we want to keep it in as good a repair as we can for as long as we can. And so the third part of that is monitoring what are those life cycle costs from the time we buy a piece of equipment till the time it's sold at the auction. What are the costs that are involved in that? So as far as equipment procurement, we work closely with our customers. Mainly our customer is Todd Law, the maintenance folks, but we do have other customers we work with as well. For example, assisting the airports with airport equipment, but we support all kinds of needs, whether it's the bucket trucks that are needed to service the signal lights, for example, all sorts of equipment. So we identify and prioritize what the customer's needs are from throughout the agency. We have folks that are writing of the specifications of those equipment and then working with through our purchasing procedures to help procure that equipment and determine what's the best value for the taxpayers. So we maintain a wide variety of equipment. The majority of that, of course, is the big orange trucks that you're all familiar with. But we also have all sorts of things, drill rigs, boom trucks, excavators, all kinds of construction equipment, anything that's needed to support the agency. And these are just a few typical examples of sorts of equipment that we're purchasing from year to year. Some of it's just your standard plow trucks, some of it's specialty equipment. You know, that's for things like, this is the bridge inspection truck that you see there on the railroad.
Super.
Next. And so we have goals for the future in regards to procurement. Obviously, the administration is looking to do as much as they can with electric vehicles. Because of the nature of our work at Central Garage is more geared towards heavy fleet and heavy equipment and moving things, as opposed to BGS fleet, which is moving people. That's more conducive to electrification, but there are a lot of things on the horizon right now. There are some police forces that are using electric or electric hybrid vehicles. So we're looking at that to incorporate into future purchases for the DMV enforcement folks that we support. Obviously, there is some electric or electric hybrid pickups now, and we're looking at possibly incorporating those into some of our half-ton truck applications. But there is more advancement constantly, which we do monitor and kind of track what's happening, you know, with the heavy truck fleet. As a matter of fact, coming up on the 20th, we're all attending a presentation that's being given by Volvo to learn about some of the advancements that they've had. So I see on the horizon that some of our heavy fleet, there are applications, particularly for some of the specialty equipment, that we could have electric vehicles, you know, in the not too distant future. So just a few examples of sort of some of the fleet management that we do. We have 660 pieces of equipment that we are currently maintaining for the agency. But again, the majority of them, the vast majority, are the dump trucks, the plow trucks that support winter maintenance. So here's just one typical example that we have of how we kind of track the downtime of those trucks. We have a preventative maintenance cycle, and we schedule downtime for the trucks. And we also track what's scheduled versus unscheduled downtime. So if there's a breakdown, we monitor that, how much time are they down, and things of that nature. Currently, we have about 249 dump trucks and 135 four-wheel drive pickups and 555 loaders that all are focused on this, primarily on support of winter maintenance. The main thing that we do, like I said, is focus on extending the service life of these vehicles. So we do all of our own, well, the majority of our own major maintenance and repair. We do occasionally bring things to the vendor or have to get work done by vendors. But Central Garage is an authorized international truck warranty repair facility. Also, we have General Motors warranty authorization. So what that enables us to do is to do our own warranty work in-house. So when we're buying these trucks brand new, if there's a warranty recall or anything of that nature, we don't need to bring it back to International to get that work done. We can do it in-house, and the work we do in-house doesn't void that manufacturer warranty. We are trained and our folks are authorized to do that work. We have all the necessary software that we can plug in and do our own diagnostics and everything that would happen at an International dealer. And
Do we have other vehicle, any other brand of truck, or just International? Do we have any?
we do have, yes, sir, other brands of trucks, but the majority of our heavy fleet is International, and the purpose of that, the whole fleet concept is that you have as much interoperability or interchangeability as that you can, so that you're not having to maintain multiple software systems and multiple inventories and parts. Yes, sir.
Okay.
So the core of our fleet, let's say the big orange trucks, are International.
Okay.
And so for the warranty work, on average over the past 3 years, we have done about $135,000 per year of International warranty work. And that's all work we were able to do in-house and not have to send out to a vendor and wait in line. You know, this way we control getting the turnaround to keep the uptime, as opposed to if a vehicle were down and it had to go to a vendor, we would have no control over that scheduling, and that can have an impact on our winter maintenance response. Again, so preventative maintenance, the whole concept, right, is that you have a systemic approach and a proactive approach to how you do inspections, looking for problems, correcting them before they become an issue, before they create downtime. And we have a management system that we use, M5, that we are able to keep track of when all preventative maintenance is due. And it helps us track, you'll see some examples later of how we track that whole life cycle cost, including the initial purchase, any upfitting of that vehicle for capital improvement, and then all of the labor, equipment, materials, repairs that go into it, even the fuel that goes into it, tracks how many hours it gets used, so that we have a very accurate life cycle cost on a piece of equipment. We track what the disposal value is when it goes to the auction, and we know exactly what that piece of equipment cost and what it costs per hour to operate. So we have, in the past, we've had $1.5 million worth of on-hand inventory. So that goes back to your question, Senator Mazza, about why we have like a fleet approach to that. It helps us minimize the inventory that we do have. So right now we have about $1.5 million worth of parts inventory on hand to support our fleet, and that's statewide. And we have made great strides, I would say, in the past year to year and a half of reducing our inventory by identifying obsolete and slow-moving inventory on parts we had on hand that aren't relevant to our fleet anymore. And we've been able to really reduce a lot of that and sell some of it at the auction and get revenue back for it, and try to make a little more of a lean process. This is another couple of examples of some of our management that we do. Dave Thurber does a good job for us of producing some performance measure reports on a frequent basis. And we track not only the uptime or downtime of the vehicles and the average age of the vehicles, but we also track the service costs. Like I said, we can figure out, you know, by hour, how much is it costing to operate the equipment, or by the mile, depending. And how often is it available for service to our customer? Obviously, the more it's available, you know, the better we're reaching our goals of supporting our customer. So again, with the major maintenance and repair, just for example, the report for the past 2 years is we had processed 5,500 work orders totaling over $15 million worth of work. So we do the majority of our work in-house on our heavy equipment, as well as on our truck fleet and light duty and medium duty fleet. So we also do the heavy equipment, the majority of it. This is a performance measure that we do on annual preventative maintenance. We track when all maintenance is scheduled. We try our best to get everything in and inspected and serviced. We do a very thorough annual preventative maintenance on every piece of equipment, but we track how often we're able to meet those goals. Unfortunately, this past year, we've been running a little short-staffed. We haven't met those goals as frequently as we would like to, but we do track that. So something that is, whether it's in on time and completed on time, or it got started late, or it was at least started on time but completed late. But we do track that, and we keep track of that information just so we know if we're meeting our own internal measures and goals. And so basically, we have 50 employees within the central garage, including myself. There's Amanda Habel, who's a fleet operations supervisor who oversees all of the regional supervisors. So we have 5 primary regional locations, as well as 2 outpost locations. So we try to have all of our facilities located within the maintenance regions that Mr. Law had made reference to, just so that we're immediately available to service our customer, as opposed to our customer having to bring everything to Berlin. We are out there and in the regions. Some of our facilities are standalone facilities that are dedicated to central garage staff, and some of them are co-located at highway maintenance facilities. Also, we have Dave Thurber, who's also a fleet operations supervisor, and he does the majority of our spec writing, tracking our performance measures and things of that nature. We have Mike Lettieri, who has come on board with us within this past year and a half and has done a great job of helping us get involved in lean processes, reducing our on-hand inventory, working more closely with all of our parts specialists to make sure that we have parts available in a timely manner, kind of getting us more towards a just-in-time ordering, collaborating with our partners in BGS to make our purchasing more efficient. And this is, as you can see, the majority of our employees are vehicle equipment technicians and vehicle and equipment mechanics. That's the majority of our workforce. And this is essentially how they're dispersed throughout the state. We have the Northwest, Northeast, Southeast, Southwest, just like the maintenance folks are aligned. And we also have that facility there in Berlin that's centrally located and help support all these other locations, as well as overseeing a lot of the shared kind of statewide equipment that's not assigned specifically to a district. So this is an example that we can run out of our M5 system that helps us keep track of costs of the vehicles, and also helps us make determinations about efficiently determining which vehicles should go to the auction, which are, excessive in cost. It helps us make better business decisions when we're procuring, future equipment. But we're able to look at, like I said, literally from kind of cradle to grave, every aspect of that, and we can make this in different formats. So we know an annual operating cost for any particular vehicle or any category of vehicle. And this is another example, a different report on the exact same piece of equipment. And this will literally tell us like cost per mile, or however we want to look at that data. So we have a lot of different ways that we can analyze the data and know what the equipment is costing, what it's costing us to maintain it, and helps be predictive about when we should dispose of that equipment. Any questions?
So you might have in pickup trucks, you might have 20 Fords, 20 Chevys, 20 GMCs. It all depends on the bid process.
Yep, it's all based on, obviously there's a procurement process. We put in a request of what we're looking for. It goes out to bid. All manufacturers or anybody, bids on that, and purchasing works with us to determine what's the best value for the taxpayer. And so we do have a variety of different brands when it comes to like the medium duty vehicles. We had GMCs.
You're not the warranted person on the pickup, so.
For General Motors, yes, sir, we are. We're not doing a lot of that work right now. We hope to do more of it in the future. We've been a little bit shorthanded, so we haven't been doing a ton of the warranty work, but we are authorized warranty for GM.
Okay. Questions? Yes, Senator Ingalls.
Are you buying versus leasing, or do you do any leasing at all? Sounds like you're doing mostly purchasing.
We do purchase. That way we have more control over the life cycle costs of those. We have in certain situations needed to rent or lease pieces of equipment. If it was a specialty piece of equipment that we didn't have immediately available, for example, our bucket trucks that they use for maintaining the traffic lights and signals had been in overdue for replacement and were frequently breaking down. So we rented some pieces of equipment because what was on order hadn't arrived yet. So to kind of fill in that gap, some things were rented, but overall it's less expensive for us to own those pieces of equipment if it's something that we need and use on an ongoing everyday basis, if it's not like a one-off situation.
Thank you.
Yes, sir.
Any other questions? Thank you very much. Appreciate it. Good job.
Thank you.
Okay, committee, it's 12:15 or 12:45 or 11:45. So let's quit for the day and we'll see everybody tomorrow morning.
Thank you.
9 a.m., right? Okay.
I'm gonna turn off the live, and also Senator Mazza, could I ask you one question before everyone goes, as everyone goes? Okay, so I'm gonna turn off the live right now.